Hi everyone and welcome to my new video. If you are new around here, my name is Thea and I hope you enjoy this relaxing journaling video about my trip to Berlin. I made most of the spread in my travel journal after I got back home, but this spread was actually made on my sister's kitchen table and I tried to use some stationery that I bought from Modular. I also saved up some stickers and other stuff like that for decorating my journal, but I will talk more about that later as I didn't use them in this spread. So for this first spread I wanted to create some kind of cover page for this Berlin trip that I could refer back to. I found this beautiful postcard from Modular and decided to use that as the main decorative piece. I also added this printed book page behind it that I brought with me, and I packed some scrap paper and stickers in a small folder, as that was an easy way to take them with me without taking up too much space in my suitcase. Once I had glued down the postcard, I added some washi tapes on the top and bottom of it, just in case the glue tape wouldn't hold up. And this glue tape is something I bought from Berlin, but it wasn't very great. This rainbow washi tape is from Pikku Paperi, which is a Finnish stationery store, and they kindly gifted me some of their washi tapes and stickers a little while ago. This video is not sponsored though, and they didn't ask me to share their products on social media, but I really love them, so I wanted to use them in my travel journal. As usual, I had no idea most of the time what I was doing, as I don't plan my travel journal spreads in advance and I just kind of did what I felt like doing at the moment. I didn't have that many things to write about, so I tried to fill up the empty space on this page with this train ticket that I had, and I think things like this make the travel journal actually feel a bit more authentic, as you can actually see the dates and the timelines of your travel. For me, a travel journal is mainly a place for memory keeping, and I don't care about the aesthetics as much. You definitely don't need fancy stationery for it, as you can use up all the little things you collect during your trip. I, for example, had some sticker sheets that were easy to take with me and 2 washi tapes, and of course a pencil case with some pens and markers. The stickers that I used for this spread are from OchMonika, and I bought this from their Etsy shop in the beginning of the year, I think. For the main title I used a new Tombow dual brush pen that I bought from Berlin, and this is the shade 772, which is a perfect darker pink. I also bought this from Modular, which is a huge stationery store that you should definitely visit if you ever come to Berlin. It's like a heaven if you like doing any kind of art or DIY projects, and they have so much cool stuff. I went there when my sister was at school because I knew she would have gotten bored of me just looking at pens for an hour, and it was nice that I could take all the time I needed. Anyway, on the bottom of the spread I just wrote some things I wanted to see and explore in Berlin, because it's easier to decide where you want to go when you have a list of places to visit. I definitely didn't visit all of these places on my trip, but I crossed off some of the list which you will see later. As a last step, I just added some more stickers for decorations to fill up the empty spaces, and these flower stickers are all from Pikku Paperi, and I really like how the spread turned out, and it didn't take that much time either. I will share a final flip through at the end of this video so you can see all the spreads I made a little bit more far away, as I only had one camera lens and very tiny tripod with me. I decided to make the rest of the spreads at home because I didn't have that much time in Berlin to make them. Here's again a little stationery haul, and I will use these items for the rest of the spreads, so you will see how these will look like in action. The first thing I did after I got back home was to cross off the things I saw on my list. I did quite a lot of things in Berlin, like visiting 3 museums alone, as my sister was quite busy, and I'm really proud of myself because doing things alone in a different country can be a little bit scary, at least for me. I felt like it was a lot easier on this trip because this was my third time in Berlin and I already knew the city a little bit, and it was easier to go to different destinations because I knew which subway I had to take. So on this spread I wanted to write about this Carte Blanche festival where we went to with my sister and her roommate. There were some acting performances that we watched, and I saw many of my sister's classmates, which was really fun because I hadn't met them before. So it was nice to just like connect the face and names I've heard talking about. They were all really lovely, and I hope I get to meet them again sometime. Anyway, after the festival, we went to eat a vegan curry first. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but basically, it was a vegan sausage with some French fries, and it was really delicious and pretty cheap too. Sadly, I don't remember the name of the place, but I'm pretty sure there are plenty of places where you can taste them in Berlin. As usual, I'm writing everything in Finnish here, as that's my native language, and in case you are curious about what I wrote, it's basically the things I told about this festival earlier. I really enjoyed all the performances I saw, but sadly there was this one performance that was in German, so I didn't understand pretty much anything that was happening, and it was also really long, so that was a little bit too much for me. But the actors were really great, so it definitely wasn't their fault as they did a really great job. Maybe I should start learning German actually. On this page on the right, I just added some of my favorite photos that I took in Berlin, and I just printed them on a regular copy paper and used a glue tape to attach them on the page. For the decorations, I used these beautiful pansy stickers from Pikku Paperi, as I thought they fit the color scheme pretty nicely. And now we are done, so we can move on to the next thread, which will be all about my museum trips. I used public transportation to get from one place to another, and it's really easy to use in Berlin as you can just use Google Maps and it will tell you where to go. The first Sunday of the month in Berlin is called Museum Sunday, which means that you can go to different museums for free. Some of these places you have to book a time slot, but there are also plenty of ones where you can just stop by. I obviously wanted to take advantage of the free museum ticket, so I went to Kupferstichkabinett. I'm sorry, I probably butchered that name completely, but anyway, there were these two different exhibitions I could go to. I again wanted to use up some random stuff I collected on my trip, so I cut these museum tickets a little bit shorter so they would fit inside of my journal. I also got this cool postcard from the first exhibition I saw and wanted to use that on the spread as well. I decided to make a little flip out from it so I could add the museum tickets underneath, and the way I make a flip out is that I just add washi tape on the one side of the postcard so I can flip it back and forth. It's important that the washi tape only covers the area where the postcard is, so it's easier to flip, and that's why I cut the excess off with my X-Acto knife. I really enjoyed these exhibitions I saw and can definitely recommend both of them. The first one was about the woman in 1400s to 1800s who created art, which was really cool to see, especially because you can basically read only about art made by men during that time. The exhibition's name is on the ticket on top. I again don't know German, so I don't know how to pronounce it. But anyway, I will try to remember to add some photos of the exhibition so you can see what to expect if you ever go to see it. The art pieces were very detailed, so I had to stand really close to see all the amazing line work. And I think all the pieces were art prints that had been made by carving the image on a metal plate, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, I think that makes these pieces of art even more amazing because it takes a lot of precision to be able to create those intricate details without a fine tip pen that we are used to these days. Anyway, here you can see the name of the museum, and it was located in the Kulturforum that I showed a clip earlier. I used a Tombow dual brush pen in the shade 076 for the title, and I also bought this shade from Berlin. So next I decided to make something interesting that I hadn't tried before, but luckily it worked out quite well. I had these two info kind of booklets from the exhibitions that were quite big, so I couldn't attach them straight onto the journal, so I decided to glue them together with some washi tape. I also cut them a bit smaller so they would fit nicely inside of my journal, and then I attached the booklets with washi tape in the same way as I did with the postcard, so I would have another flip out, or kind of like a double flip out. Underneath the double flip out, I added a couple of photos from the exhibitions that ended up being a bit too small, so it's really difficult to see what's in them, but oh well. Then I also wrote some thoughts about the exhibitions on the empty right side. The second exhibition was about the artist Albert Dürer, and I'm sorry, I probably again said that wrong. But anyway, this exhibition was very interesting as you could see the artistic development, and I also really enjoyed seeing some sketches of the bigger artworks, which I feel like you don't usually see in art exhibitions, or at least I never have seen those. I added some of these flower stickers that came with Notebook Therapy junk journal washi tape set that I bought recently, and I also decided to add some sparkles with my new bronze jelly roll. that's basically it for this spread, and I'm happy that I found a way to add all of these elements in this one spread, so I can also read about these exhibitions years later when I've probably forgotten about them. Now let's move on to the next spread, and this is also going to be about the museums, as I went to 3 different ones like I said earlier. The second one that I went to was Humboldt Forum, which is actually a free museum, so definitely consider visiting there if you are on a budget. I wrote the title with a blue Crayola super tip, and I decided to use these alphabet stamps for writing the word forum just for a change. The architecture of this place was absolutely amazing, and I really enjoyed taking photos outside of the building. The exhibition was more history than art related, and there were these old items from all over the world, like huge old ships and these kinds of totems, I guess. For the decorations, I decided to use these Washi strawberry stickers that I bought from Idee Kreativmarkt in Berlin, and I don't really know if I like these or not. I feel like they look a bit childish in some kind of way, but they are also really cute. I also added some blue washi tapes for the decorations because that went really well with the colors, and this spread didn't end up being my favorite, but I'm glad I decided to try out something a little bit different with the colors than what I usually go for. Next I wrote some thoughts about the Humboldt Forum and the exhibitions there. I think it's definitely worth visiting, especially because it's free, but as I'm not a huge fan of history, it wasn't my cup of tea, if that makes sense. I mean, the items there were really cool and impressive, but maybe a guided tour would have been a little bit more interesting because most of the text was written in German. The most interesting thing for me was the architecture, and the building was very impressive, and I could see myself enjoying a cup of tea in the cafe that was outside of the building. On this page on the right I added some photos of the Alte National Galerie, which was the third museum I went to, and on the bottom of the spread I made this little pocket where I could store all the photos I took there because there were many of them. This is really easy to make as you just fold the 3 sides and then cut the overlapping corners, and it's one of my favorite things to add in my journaling spreads. This museum is located in the Museum Island and the ticket cost 10 euros, so it was a little bit more expensive. And you can also buy it online, which is what I did, so that's why you don't see any tickets in this spread. I really enjoyed going to this museum as there were some really old paintings and sculptures from 1700s to 1900s, if I remember right. The building itself was also stunning, especially in the inside, and I really enjoyed looking at the paintings, which were very detailed, and it was also interesting to see different techniques that the artists used. On the top of the spread I added this photo that I took from Berliner Dom, I think, and it's located in the Museum Island. I didn't go there this time, so just to save some things on my next trip. I also added this photo outside of the Arte National Gallery, and I have some photos inside of the building as well, which I added in the pocket. On the empty space next to the photo, I wrote the title with the same kind of font, but decided to outline the right side of the letters with a black pen because I felt like this spread needed a little bit more black. If you are using light colors for titles, this is a great way to make them stand out a little bit more, and I used to use this technique a lot before I learned how to do calligraphy. Anyway, on the bottom I again wrote some thoughts about the museum and how much I enjoyed going there. I saw someone in the sculpture room drawing in their sketchbook, which was really cool, and I kinda wish I had brought my sketchbook with me so I could have done the same thing. But yeah, I will definitely try that sometime as I usually just draw at home and it's totally different thing to use a real life reference than a reference photo. Now we are making a spread where I wrote about my trip to the botanical garden in Berlin, which was really beautiful. I will show you some pictures later and you will see them in the spread as well. I wanted to make the title a little bit different, so I wrote it in this grid paper that I bought from Louis Vuitton, and I think they have an online shop as well. I bought the dog stickers you saw earlier from there as well, and those are my new favorite thing as I love dogs and the stickers were so adorable, so obviously I had to buy them. Because the pink was a little bit lighter than the green marker that I used, I decided to make a gradient by going on top of the letters again with the pink marker, and this is the same 772 shade that I used in the first spread. I felt like the grid paper didn't stand out enough from the journal page as they had quite a similar color, so I decided to add some of this craft paper on top of the page behind the title. I think this was the right choice and it made the spread feel a little bit different compared to the previous ones I made, and this spread actually ended up being my favorite, maybe because of the colors. Here you can see a couple of the photos I took, and the cacti section of the greenhouses was probably my favorite place in this botanical garden because the cacti were absolutely huge. I've never seen anything like that before, and some of them also had pretty flowers. I used these pretty lavender stickers from Pikku Paperi for the decorations, and then I also used these duck stickers that I made, which you might recognize from my April bullet journal theme. On the right side I again made a little pocket, just because I had so many photos that I couldn't fit in the page itself. I love that this pocket is a little bit asymmetrical, and I think it makes it a little bit more interesting looking as you can see better the texture of the paper. The ticket to the botanical garden cost €6, which wasn't bad at all, as there was a lot to see. I only went to the greenhouses because I didn't have that much time to explore outside, so I will have to come back another time. You could definitely spend the whole day here and have a nice picnic outside as well. It was also a really hot day, so I was sweating inside the greenhouses, and it might be a bit better idea to come here on a cooler day. It was worth a visit though, and I also had my sketchbook with me, but didn't end up sketching after all because I ran out of time. The weather in Berlin was really warm, and it was over 24 degrees Celsius every day, I think. So June is the perfect time to visit, as it can get quite hot in July, or so I've heard from my sister. Anyway, let's move on to the last spread I made. I decided to dedicate the earlier spreads for the main sites and events I went to see, but I had some honorable mentions, I guess, which I couldn't fit in the earlier pages, so I decided to make other things I did spread where I could write about them. For the main title, I used a Tombow dual brush pen in the shade 850, which was a little bit too light, so I ended up making a gradient later, and I also outlined the letters completely because you wouldn't have seen the text otherwise. I had 4 different activities I wanted to write about, and I also had some photos related to them that I glued down first. Like I usually do, I also added some stickers for decorations before I started writing, so I could easily see how much writing space I had. The first honorable mention was my walk to Humboldt Park, which I went to see last year as well. This graffiti wall painting was in one of the buildings on my walk there, so it's not in the park itself. If you would like to see more about the Humboldt Park, go check out my travel journal from last year, and it's the first video on my travel journal playlist. I also had a nice dinner at Viki Viki Poke. I'm not completely sure how that's pronounced, but anyway, I went there with my sister, and they had this amazing vegan salmon bowl, which I highly recommend. I don't think they have anything like that here in Finland, or at least in my hometown. The wasabi nuts were a little bit too spicy for me, so if you don't like spicy, make sure to order it without them. We also had drinks one night at a beer garden, which was really nice. I don't drink much alcohol these days, and I don't also really like beer. But I tried this Rattler drink, which is a mix of beer and some kind of lemonade, and that was really good. On my last day, we also went on an evening swim with my sister in the lake Flughafensee, which was very refreshing as it was a really hot day. The water felt really cold at first, but it wasn't that bad once you had been there a while. For the decorations, I added this light green washi tape, and I also wanted to use this cute plant washi tape from Pikku Paperi, which looked really pretty on this page. Now it's finally time for the final flip through. I had a lot of fun on this trip to Berlin, and I also enjoyed making these spreads. I hope you found some inspiration or tips if you are planning on traveling to Berlin, and I would also love to hear if you ever have been there. Let me know if you got any new ideas from this video, and I would also love to hear what you think of this more chill real-time editing style that I tried this time. I think this was also the first time when I used a natural lighting, which gives a little bit of a different vibe. It's nice to be able to do that during summer, as my apartment is pretty much dark in the other seasons. Anyway, make sure to leave a like and also a dog emoji in the comments if you watch all the way till the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!